I came home Thursday night, exhausted from work, and smelled coffee brewing. That's when I saw him, my nephew, pouring something dark into the pot. I froze. Margaret's voice, low and sharp, cut through my shock. Step back. My heart pounded. "What are you doing?" I asked. But he didn't flinch. His stare held a calm menace, like he had been waiting for this exact moment. I couldn't move. My hands felt frozen, my mind racing to understand what was happening. My nephew Jeremy had always been a bit impulsive, but this was deliberate. Margaret gripped my arm tighter, her nails pressing into my skin, and whispered again, "Don't let him see you panic." I swallowed hard and tried to steady my voice. "Jeremy, what are you doing with that?" He didn't answer. He just kept pouring, slow and careful, like he was following some plan I couldn't grasp. His eyes flicked up at me once, and I thought I saw something dangerous hiding behind his calm. My stomach churned. "This isn't funny," I said, trying to mask the fear. "Put it down now." Jeremy tilted the bottle a little higher, and that's when the smell hit me. A faint chemical scent, metallic and bitter. My heart leapt into my throat. I turned to Margaret, hoping she would stop him, and saw her shaking her head slightly, her lips pressed together in that silent way she had when she knew something terrible was about to happen. I don't know," she muttered, eyes wide. I tried to step forward, but Margaret pulled me back. "Wait," she hissed. "He'll react if you make a move." Her warning made me hesitate, and I realized she was right. Jeremy wasn't a boy acting out. He had control here. I had walked into his plan without even knowing it. The kitchen felt smaller, tighter, the clock ticking loudly in my head. "Jeremy," I said again, my voice firmer now. "Talk to me." "Why?" He paused, as if considering the question, then smiled slightly. Not a smile of joy, but of calculation, like he knew something I didn't. I stepped closer, careful not to startle him. "I'm your uncle. We raised you. You don't need to." "I do," he cut in, voice quiet but firm. "You don't understand. No one does." His words chilled me. "I've been waiting for this, for all of you to see everything." My pulse raced. I glanced at Margaret, hoping she could explain, but her face was pale, frozen in the same fear that had gripped me since I walked in. The coffee pot hissed as a drop fell to the counter. That small noise made me realize how long we had stood there, locked in this dangerous stillness. I had to act, but any sudden move could trigger, I didn't even know what, poison, sabotage, threat. All of it ran through my mind in seconds. "Step away from the counter," I said carefully, voice louder now. "No one has to get hurt." Jeremy laughed softly, a quiet, unsettling sound. "Hurt, maybe. Maybe not. Depends on how you play it." He finally set the bottle down, not on the counter, but beside it, almost like a statement. I stared at it, my hands shaking despite my best effort to stay composed. Margaret's hand pressed into mine, her fingers icy cold. I tried to force reason into the moment. "Talk to me, Jeremy. Why are you doing this?" He looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time, really seeing me. "Because nobody listens," he said. "Nobody notices until it's too late. I've been patient. I've waited." The words hung in the air, heavy, like a warning I wasn't ready to understand. I backed up slightly, keeping my eyes on him. "Margaret, call 911, I whispered. Barely audible. She shook her head, and I realized she hadn't wanted to involve anyone yet. She was scared, not just of Jeremy, but of what would come next. I could feel her anxiety radiating, tightening the room. Then, without warning, Jeremy moved. Not aggressively, but with a deliberate, controlled precision that made my stomach drop. He lifted the bottle again, but this time I could see it clearly, a dark, viscous liquid. My mind raced. My nephew. The boy I had loved was now an unknown, dangerous figure in my own kitchen. I tried to step forward again, but Margaret's grip stopped me. "Not yet," she warned. Her eyes darted to the front door as if expecting anyone to enter and break this nightmare. I nodded, swallowing hard, trying to calm my pounding heart. "Jeremy, whatever this is, it doesn't have to end badly," I said. "We can fix it. Talk to me." He paused. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "It's already ended," he whispered. And in that moment I realized this wasn't just a prank or a simple act of rebellion. This was something he had planned for a long time. I stepped back slowly, keeping my eyes on him. Every instinct screamed to grab the bottle, to stop him, to take control, but I knew any sudden move could make everything worse. Margaret kept whispering, "Step back, please," and I obeyed, though my mind was screaming at me to act. The tension built until the air felt almost alive, crackling with the possibility of disaster. Then Jeremy smiled again. That deliberate, calculated smile, and said, "Do you really think you can stop it? Do you really think you understand me?" I swallowed hard. I didn't understand. I didn't know if I could. And as he lifted the bottle again, I realized that whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same in our house or in our family. I stood frozen, my mind spinning, every nerve on edge. Jeremy's calm menace filled the room, pressing down like a heavy weight. Margaret's hand was still gripping mine, her fingers trembling so hard I could feel each heartbeat. "Please," she whispered again, "just don't make a move." I could feel her fear, sharp and raw, and I realized she knew something I didn't, something dangerous. Jeremy's eyes were locked on mine, unwavering, and his movements were deliberate, almost ritualistic. "You think you've raised me," he said softly, voice smooth but menacing, "but you don't know who I am anymore. You never did." The words stung in a way that no slap could. I wanted to speak, to argue, but nothing formed. My throat was dry, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Jeremy, listen," I managed, my voice shaking. "Whatever this is, you don't have to do it alone. We can talk." "You can," he laughed, low and dangerous. Talking didn't work. That's why I'm here. You never listened. Not to me. Not to anyone. But now," his eyes flicked to the coffee pot again, and my stomach dropped. "Now it's time you finally pay attention." Margaret pulled me back slightly, urgency in her touch. "David, don't move," she hissed. Her warning snapped me out of the paralysis that had frozen me since walking in. My brain raced. I had to think. One wrong step could end in disaster. The bottle in his hand wasn't just liquid. It was a threat, a declaration. I had no idea how far he would go. "Step away from the counter, Jeremy," I said, trying to inject authority into my voice, even though my knees threatened to buckle. "I'm not going to let anyone get hurt. Just put it down." He tilted his head, considering me. "Hurt? Maybe. Maybe not. Depends on how careful you are." His words were deliberate, like a puzzle I wasn't meant to solve yet. I realized then that this wasn't a moment of passion or anger. This was calculated. He had thought this through, every word, every movement, and I was trapped in the center of it. I glanced at Margaret again. Her eyes were wide, her mouth pressed into a thin line. "Call the police," I whispered, urgently, barely audible. She shook her head violently. "Not yet. Not here. You don't understand." I did understand. I understood the danger, the threat, the tension that could explode into violence at any second. My mind raced through possibilities. Call 911, grab the bottle, restrain him, but each scenario carried risks I wasn't willing to take without a plan. My nephew, the boy I had once adored, was gone, replaced by someone I didn't know, someone dangerous, Jeremy moved again, slow, deliberate, keeping the bottle at an angle that made my stomach tighten. You know, he said, I could pour this, and everything changes in a heartbeat, and you'd never see it coming. His calm tone was terrifying, like a predator testing its prey. Jeremy, I said again, firmer this time. Please, don't, you're scaring Margaret. You're scaring me. Just stop. My hands were shaking, but I tried to sound steady, authoritative. I needed to hold something, any sense of control. He smiled faintly, almost sad, and shook his head. Stop? No. Not until you understand. Not until you see what I've been carrying, what no one else would notice. You never did. Margaret pulled me closer, whispering again, her voice trembling. David. He's not joking. Step back. He's serious. The urgency in her tone made me realize this wasn't a prank, a childish stunt, or some impulsive mistake. This was intentional, and it could end badly for all of us. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, trying to think clearly. I had to reason with him. Appeal to the boy I knew, the nephew I had spent summers raising. Jeremy, I know you're angry. I know you feel unheard. But this isn't the way. Talk to me. Please. His eyes softened for a fraction of a second, and I thought I saw a glimmer of the child I once knew. Then it vanished, replaced with that cold, calculating stare. It's too late for talking. You should have listened years ago. This is the only way to make you see. My chest tightened. I could feel the tension building, every muscle in my body on edge. The kitchen felt like it had shrunk, the air thick with anticipation, fear, and something I couldn't name. Jeremy held the bottle steady, poised, his calmness making me more nervous than any shout or scream ever could. I realized then that this moment wasn't just about the coffee, or even the threat of what he could do. It was about power, about attention, about forcing a reckoning that we had ignored for years. And somehow I had to survive it. Not just for me, but for Margaret, and for the family that had unknowingly created this tension. Margaret leaned close and whispered again, David, whatever happens, stay calm. Don't provoke him. Her words were firm, a reminder that panic could make this spiral into disaster. I nodded, swallowing hard, and tried to breathe evenly, to slow my racing heart. But every instinct screamed at me that the next few minutes would decide everything. Jeremy tilted the bottle slightly again, letting a drop escape, and my stomach lurched. Time seemed to slow, every second stretched, every heartbeat felt magnified. I realized that whatever happened next, we could never go back to the way things were. The house, the family, even our trust in him. Everything had shifted in a heartbeat. I stepped back slowly, keeping my eyes on him, trying to gauge his next move. My mind raced, thinking through every conversation, every argument, every moment I might have overlooked. And then he said something that made the blood drain from my face. If you move too fast, this ends badly. But if you listen, maybe, just maybe you'll understand why I've done this. I swallowed hard, trying to hold on to some sense of control, trying to read him, trying to prepare for what was coming. Jeremy had become a stranger in my own kitchen, and I realized I had no idea what the next move would bring. I stayed frozen, every muscle coiled like a spring ready to snap, my eyes locked on Jeremy and the bottle in his hand. Margaret's grip was still on my arm, her nails pressing into me, but even her presence couldn't calm the storm building in the kitchen. David, just stay calm, she whispered again. Her voice trembled, but there was steel underneath it. I nodded, forcing myself to breathe, forcing my mind to think instead of react. Jeremy's eyes shifted toward the clock on the wall. You see that? He asked softly, almost conversationally. I followed his gaze. The second hand ticked methodically, a constant reminder that time was moving, even if we felt trapped in this moment. Every second you waste, you lose, he said. I swallowed hard, feeling a mix of fear and dread tighten my chest. Jeremy, whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to escalate, I said, trying to steady my voice. Put the bottle down. Let's figure this out. His hand wavered slightly, but only a fraction. Figure it out? He echoed. Voice low, dangerous. Do you think you could ever understand? No, not until you've faced what I've carried for years. You never noticed, never cared, and now it's my turn to be seen. Margaret's whisper came again, urgent. David, he's testing you. Don't let him see fear. Step back. Just step back and keep talking. I nodded, even though I wanted to lunge forward, snatch the bottle, and end this immediately. My instincts screamed danger, but Margaret was right. Any sudden move could trigger something catastrophic. Jeremy tilted the bottle again, letting a tiny droplet fall onto the counter. The smell was sharper this time, chemical and acrid. I felt bile rise in my throat. This isn't a game, Jeremy, I said. You could hurt someone. You could ruin everything. He laughed softly, almost mournfully, shaking his head. Ruined? No. Everything's already ruined. This is about balance, about truth, about making you see what I've always seen. I realized then that his plan wasn't about revenge alone. It was about forcing exposure, forcing confrontation. He wanted acknowledgement, recognition for years of being overlooked. My heart ached, not just for the danger we faced, but for the boy I had failed to understand. Jeremy, I hear you, I said carefully, keeping my voice calm. I see you. Now, let's make this safe. Talk to me, and we can fix it together. He looked at me then, really looked, and for a heartbeat I saw the boy I remembered, the one who had laughed too loud, who had been shy around strangers but bright with curiosity. Then, that moment was gone, replaced by the calculated stare that had frozen me since I entered the kitchen. Safe? He whispered. Safe is what you never gave me. You never noticed until it was too late. Now safety is a choice I control. Margaret tugged my sleeve. David. He's not bluffing. Step back another foot. I obeyed, my pulse hammering in my ears. I had no idea what he meant by choice I control, and the uncertainty made my stomach tighten. Every scenario ran through my head. Poison, fire, confrontation, flight. None seemed safe. None guaranteed survival. Jeremy. I said again, firmer now, trying to inject authority without threatening him. I am listening. I want to understand. But this could destroy everything. I can't let that happen. Don't make a mistake. We can't undo. He paused, tilting his head as if weighing my words. Mistake? He repeated softly. Do you really think I don't know what's at stake? Do you think I don't understand the consequences? Oh, I do. Every single one. And I'm ready to face them. Are you? The weight of his words hit me. I realized that whatever happened next, it wasn't just a test of courage. It was a test of our entire relationship, our family, every misstep, every oversight, every time I had failed to notice his needs or fears, had led to this moment, and now in this small kitchen, it all came to a head. I swallowed hard, taking a slow, steadying breath. Yes, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I'm ready, but only if you let me help. He smiled faintly, a chilling blend of satisfaction and menace. Help? Perhaps. Maybe. But you'll need to prove it. Actions, not words. Words are cheap. I need to see commitment. Are you committed? I hesitated, weighing every angle. One wrong answer could trigger disaster, but I forced myself to nod. I am, I said. I'll do whatever it takes. He leaned closer, bottle in hand, and whispered, then step back and watch carefully. The first move will show everything. Margaret gasped softly, and I could see her eyes darting between Jeremy and the bottle, terror and hope mingling in her expression. I felt the tension building, thicker, heavier, each second dragging endlessly, knowing that whatever happened next could change our lives forever. And I realized with a sinking feeling that the next move would not just reveal Jeremy's plan, it would reveal the cracks in our family, the mistakes I had ignored, and the danger we hadn't even begun to comprehend. I stepped back, slowly, keeping my eyes locked on Jeremy, the bottle trembling slightly in his grip. Every instinct screamed to act, to snatch it, to end this now, but I knew that any sudden move could ignite disaster. Margaret pressed against me, whispering again, "David, be careful. Just breathe. Just watch." Her fear radiated through me, sharpening every nerve, every thought. Jeremy tilted the bottle, letting a small droplet escape onto the counter. The chemical scent was stronger now, almost metallic, and my stomach twisted in response. "Do you see it?" he asked softly. Voice calm but sharp. "The way a single drop can change everything. That's what you've missed all these years. One mistake, one oversight, and it all unravels. Jeremy, this isn't you," I said, trying to reason with him, voice steady despite the adrenaline surging in my veins. "You're angry, I get it, but you can't fix things by threatening us, by doing something dangerous. We can talk, we can." He cut me off with a quiet laugh, low and unsettling. Fix what? The past? The lies? The times you ignored me? You think apologies erase decades of being invisible? You think I'm going to just forget? His eyes were sharp, piercing, and for a moment I could see the boy I once knew, lost somewhere behind that calculated gaze. Margaret gripped my arm harder, nails digging in. "David, don't push him. Step back," she whispered urgently. Her warning reminded me that Jeremy wasn't just angry. He was strategic. Every movement, every word had a purpose. One wrong action could trigger chaos. I nodded silently, trying to regulate my breathing. Jeremy's stare flicked to the clock, then back to me. "Time is a funny thing, isn't it?" he said softly. "It keeps moving. Whether you notice or not, you didn't notice me. Not really. But now I make you notice." He leaned closer to the counter. The bottle raised slightly higher. My pulse jumped. This wasn't a bluff. The danger was real. I swallowed hard. "Okay," I said slowly, deliberately. "I see you, I hear you. But this has to stop. Please, Jeremy. Don't do this." My voice was calm, but inside my heart thundered. Every scenario, every consequence flashed in my mind, and I realized that reasoning might not be enough. He was beyond words. He wanted action, acknowledgement, proof that we understood. He smiled faintly, just enough to unsettle me. "Stop? No. Not until you see. Not until you understand the weight of what's been ignored. I've carried this longer than you think." He paused, tilting the bottle slightly. A single drop escaped, hissing faintly as it landed on the countertop. The sound was small, but it felt enormous. Margaret's whisper cut through my panic. "David, maybe you need to show him. Show him you understand. Don't argue, don't threaten. Just act." Her words made me hesitate. What did she mean by act, and how could I prove understanding without escalating danger? But before I could consider, Jeremy spoke again. "You're thinking too much," he said quietly, his voice sharper this time. "I don't need words. I need proof. Actions. A single choice will tell me everything. You ready?" The calm precision in his tone made my stomach drop. Every muscle in me tensed. This was it, the moment where everything could tip into disaster or redemption. I nodded slowly. "I'm ready," I said, voice steady, despite the tremor running through my hands. Jeremy's gaze flicked to Margaret, then back to me. "Good," he whispered, "because there's no going back from what happens next." He tilted the bottle again, almost as if measuring my reaction. I realized then that he wasn't just holding a chemical threat. He was holding the culmination of years of anger, frustration, and a desire to be seen. Margaret pressed against me, whispering, "David, just stay calm. Just follow his lead." I could feel the tension vibrating between the three of us, thick, heavy, almost suffocating. Jeremy raised the bottle higher, and my pulse jumped. This wasn't a test of strength or courage. It was a test of comprehension, acknowledgement, and timing. "Do you remember the summer we went to Lake Superior?" I asked, suddenly, trying to pierce the tension with memory. Jeremy froze for a fraction of a second, and I saw the smallest flicker of recognition. "You do," I continued, voice calm. "I remember you were afraid of the boat," and I laughed, not at you, but because I thought you'd be okay. I never realized how much that mattered to you. He didn't lower the bottle, but his eyes softened slightly, a crack in the armor. "You thought it was a small thing," he said quietly. "But it wasn't. Everything was small to you. Everything but your life, your mistakes, your comfort." His words cut deep. Every guilt I had tried to ignore suddenly surged up. I swallowed hard. "Jeremy, I see you now," I said softly, deliberately, letting each word land. "I see your anger. I see your fear. And I see what I missed." Margaret's fingers dug into my arm, nails white. The tension in her shoulders mirrored my own. This moment was precarious, fragile. Jeremy's grip on the bottle shifted slightly. He let out a slow, deliberate breath. Maybe you do. But it's not just words this time." His gaze flicked down to the coffee pot, and my stomach tightened again. "You need to act. Show me that this family sees me, that you've noticed, really noticed." I stepped closer, careful not to make sudden movements, eyes never leaving his. "Okay," I said quietly. "I will. Tell me what you need." "I'll do it." His gaze locked on mine, measuring, evaluating. Then finally he spoke. "You need to show me, not just talk. Show me that we're a family that sees each other." I nodded slowly, heart hammering. "I will," I whispered. "I promise." And in that moment the tension shifted slightly. Not gone, not safe, but a fragile thread of hope threading between us. Jeremy lowered the bottle a fraction, and I realized that the next steps, careful, deliberate, and calm, might be our only chance to turn this around. Margaret exhaled softly behind me, relief flickering in her eyes, but the danger was far from over. Every second stretched, every heartbeat loud, and I knew that what came next would test all of us, the family, the bonds, and the choices we had made over decades. I took a deep, measured breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. Jeremy's gaze never left mine, sharp and unwavering, but there was a hint of something else there. A test, a challenge, a fragile thread of trust. Margaret pressed closer, whispering softly, "David, just do what he asks. Don't rush. One wrong move." And her voice trailed off. But the warning was clear. I nodded, swallowing hard, trying to calm the storm inside me. Jeremy tilted the bottle slightly, as if measuring my reaction, and I realized the intensity of the moment. Every second stretched like a wire ready to snap. "Show me then," he said, voice quiet but heavy with expectation. "Prove you see me. Prove that this family actually notices me." My pulse pounded. How do you prove something so deep, so long ignored in a single moment? I forced myself to think. Words alone weren't enough. Actions mattered. I reached slowly toward the counter, keeping my movements deliberate and calm. "Jeremy," I said softly, "I know I haven't seen everything you went through. I wasn't careful. I didn't notice your fear, your anger, or your pain. But I'm trying now. I'm here. I see you. I hear you." His eyes flicked down to the counter, then back to mine. For the first time, I noticed a subtle shift in his stance, a tension in his shoulders relaxing ever so slightly. "Words are cheap," he said quietly, voice almost vulnerable. "Actions matter." The words struck deep. I realized then that everything hung on the next few steps. One miscalculation, one sudden move could turn this moment into disaster. I glanced at Margaret. Her eyes were wide, fear and hope mixing together. She whispered, "David, whatever you do, don't let him feel trapped. Give him space." I nodded and turned back to Jeremy, taking a deliberate step back while keeping my eyes locked on his. "I'm stepping back. I'm listening. I'm letting you lead this," I said. My heart thundered, but I forced myself to remain calm, to convey trust without fear. Jeremy's lips curved slightly. Not a smile, but a recognition. "Finally," he said, voice low. "Now you understand. This is how it begins." He set the bottle on the counter, but didn't release it. A clear warning that control had shifted, but the danger was not gone. My stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed to act, to grab it, to end the threat. But Margaret's hand on my arm reminded me that patience was the only weapon we had. I swallowed hard. "Jeremy, I see the fear behind the anger. I see how much pain you've carried, and I see the planning behind this," I said slowly, deliberately. "I'm not here to punish you or judge you. I'm here to understand. Let me help." His eyes softened for a fraction of a second. I thought I saw the boy. I remembered the nephew who had laughed too loud, who had trusted me once. Then the hardness returned, a reminder that this was still very real, very dangerous. He moved the bottle slightly, testing my reaction. "It's not enough to talk," he said quietly. "You need to act, truly act, or none of this changes. You need to show me that we are a family that notices, that cares, that protects." His words carried weight. Every family mistake, every oversight, every moment of neglect now felt amplified in the silence between us. I nodded slowly. "I understand," I said. "I'll show you. But not by taking the bottle, by showing you we can face this together. We can handle it safely, without anyone getting hurt." He studied me, eyes sharp, measuring my sincerity. Every heartbeat felt magnified. Margaret's fingers tightened around mine. Silent encouragement, silent fear. Jeremy's voice broke the tension again. "Step closer. Slowly. I need to see that you trust me, that you're willing to follow my lead." My heart leapt into my throat. One wrong step, and everything could explode. But I forced myself to obey, moving slowly, deliberately, letting him gauge every motion, showing patience and control. As I stepped closer, keeping my hands visible, I noticed his shoulders relax ever so slightly. The bottle remained in his grip, but the rigid tension I had felt since entering the kitchen softened. Margaret exhaled softly, relief flickering, though I could feel the danger was far from gone. This wasn't over. It was only shifting, evolving into a delicate, dangerous dance. "Good," Jeremy whispered. "Now, show me that we can communicate, that we can trust each other without threats, without danger. One small act, one choice, and I'll know." My mind raced. What choice would prove everything? Words had failed. Authority had failed. Only understanding, patience, and careful action could work. I reached toward the coffee pot, slowly, deliberately, hands trembling but controlled. Jeremy's eyes never left mine, studying every micro movement. I poured a cup into a separate mug, then handed it to him without touching the bottle. "Here," I said calmly. "Take this. Show me you trust me enough to let go without fear." For a heartbeat, Jeremy didn't move. The tension in the room thickened until it felt suffocating. Then, slowly, he set the bottle down completely, hands shaking slightly. My stomach dropped. Relief and fear collided. He wasn't smiling, but I could see something softer in his eyes, a glimmer of recognition, acknowledgement, and maybe forgiveness. Margaret exhaled audibly behind me, pressing against me, tears brimming. "David," she whispered, voice shaky. "You did it. You." He's listening. I nodded, but I knew better. The danger wasn't gone. Jeremy had lowered the immediate threat, but the emotional reckoning, the years of resentment, the reckoning for past neglect, those would take far longer to resolve. Jeremy lifted the mug, staring into it as if seeing a mirror of his own anger, his pain, his desire for acknowledgement. Maybe this is the start, he said, quietly. Maybe we can begin, but every choice from now on will matter. Every word, every action, no mistakes. His tone was serious, almost solemn, but the edge of menace remained. I nodded slowly, swallowing hard. I understand, I said. We'll do it together. Every step of the way. No threats, no games, only truth and honesty from now on. Jeremy didn't reply immediately, just studied me, the tension in his body slowly easing, but not disappearing. The lesson had begun, but the road ahead was long and dangerous. Margaret pressed my arm one last time. David, we survived the first move, but this isn't over. We have to be careful. Watch him. Listen to him. Anticipate him. Every day will be a test. I nodded, realizing that she was right. The immediate crisis had passed, but the real challenge, rebuilding trust, navigating his anger and keeping everyone safe, was just beginning. Jeremy set the mug down, and for the first time since I had walked in, he looked at me fully, the tension easing, though not gone. One step, he said quietly. Just one, but every step after depends on you. Don't fail. My stomach twisted with the weight of responsibility. I realized then that surviving this moment was only the beginning. The real reckoning, the emotional and moral one, was ahead, and nothing would ever be the same in our family again. The kitchen felt impossibly quiet after Jeremy set the bottle down. The chemical smell lingered faintly, a reminder of how close we'd come to disaster. I could feel Margaret trembling beside me, her hand pressing into mine, offering silent support. David. We need to talk to him, she whispered softly. Before he changes his mind. I nodded, knowing she was right. One wrong word, one misstep, and we could undo every ounce of progress we'd just made. Jeremy didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the mug he held, but there was a shift in his posture, a subtle loosening of the tension. I realized he wasn't just holding the bottle, he was holding all of us hostage to years of pain and neglect, and releasing even a fraction of it required control. I swallowed hard, and stepped forward carefully, hands visible, voice calm. Jeremy, I want to understand everything. Help me see what I missed, what you've carried all these years. He glanced at me, then at Margaret, then back to me. You want to see? He asked quietly. You want to really know? There was a dangerous edge beneath his words, the kind that made my heart leap. I nodded slowly, forcing my shaking hands to remain steady. I do, I said. I need to, and I want to fix it, if I can. Jeremy let out a slow breath, and for the first time, I saw the weight in his shoulders. It started small, he said, voice low. Little things. Ignored comments, forgotten plans, laughter at my fear instead of with me. Every summer, every holiday, you never noticed. Not really. My stomach twisted. I remembered the trips, the moments, the things I had thought insignificant, all flashing back in an instant. Margaret whispered, barely audible, David, don't argue. Just listen. I nodded, keeping my gaze locked on Jeremy. I see, I said softly. I see the pain I caused without realizing it. I see what I missed. I'm sorry. His eyes narrowed slightly. But I sensed the sincerity in my own voice, the raw honesty. Saying sorry doesn't fix it, he replied quietly. You have to act. You have to prove it. Actions, not words. I swallowed hard and nodded again. Then tell me what you need. I'll do it. He studied me for a long moment, his gaze piercing, weighing my sincerity, testing me. Finally, He leaned back slightly and spoke. "You have to let me lead for a moment. Trust me. No sudden moves. One wrong step, and everything falls apart. Do you trust me enough to do that?" I hesitated, then nodded. "I do. I trust you." The words felt heavy, almost like a contract, but necessary. Margaret exhaled softly beside me, relief flickering across her face. Jeremy's hand relaxed slightly on the mug, the bottle still on the counter, but no longer raised. The tension had eased, but only slightly. He began moving slowly, deliberately, explaining his plan. It wasn't just about the coffee. It wasn't just about a threat. It was about showing us, finally, the depth of his anger, his frustration, and his sense of being unseen. Every detail was meticulous, a carefully orchestrated demonstration of what happens when a family ignores one of its own. I listened, absorbing every word, every nuance, terrified and fascinated at once. Margaret leaned against me again, whispering, "David, keep calm, follow his lead. Don't judge, don't correct, just listen." I did. I felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on me, the enormity of the moment clear. Jeremy's pain wasn't abstract. It was immediate, raw, and potentially explosive. One misstep could undo every ounce of trust we were rebuilding. He paused, looking at me directly. "Do you understand now?" he asked quietly. His eyes were searching, almost pleading. "Do you understand the small things that add up? The things you ignored? The things you dismissed?" I nodded slowly, swallowing hard. "I understand. I see it now. I will never ignore it again. I promise." For a moment, the room was still, the silence heavy, as if holding its breath. Jeremy set the mug down and finally tentatively reached for the bottle, just to move it out of reach, a symbolic gesture more than a threat. Margaret exhaled audibly, relief flooding through her. I could see a faint glimmer of trust forming between us, fragile but real. Then, without warning, Jeremy's expression shifted. A memory, a flash of anger from years past, crossed his face. "But there's more," he said quietly, voice tense. "You never noticed the betrayal, the secrets, the lies that piled up around me. You think ignoring small things was the worst of it. There are bigger ones. Family things. Things I shouldn't have seen. Things you didn't tell me." My heart sank. I had thought this was about oversight, neglect, misunderstanding, but Jeremy was hinting at something deeper, something darker, hidden beneath years of family dynamics. Margaret gasped softly, pressing closer, her fingers trembling. "David, he's not done," she whispered. The realization hit me. We were far from safe. The first act had passed, but the real reckoning, the one that could truly tear us apart, was only beginning. Jeremy's eyes bore into mine. "If you want to survive this, if you want to be part of this family, you have to see everything. No excuses. No ignoring it. Just see." The weight of his words pressed down, suffocating, and I realized that the days ahead wouldn't just test our nerves. They would test every decision, every loyalty, every hidden truth we had ignored for decades. I swallowed hard, voice trembling slightly. "I'll see it. I'll face it. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Jeremy's expression softened slightly, a glimmer of hope in the shadows of his anger. "Good," he said quietly, "because the next steps will tell me everything. Actions, not words. You understand?" I nodded. "I understand." Margaret exhaled softly, relief mixing with fear, knowing we had passed one stage, but that the deeper reckoning, the hidden family betrayals, the secrets was still ahead. Jeremy's plan wasn't just about the bottle or the coffee. It was about every misstep, every oversight, everything that had gone unseen for years. And now we had no choice but to confront it. The kitchen was thick with silence, heavier than before. Jeremy's eyes never left mine, sharp and calculating, but now tinged with something more, a demand, a challenge, a subtle plea for acknowledgement. Margaret pressed against me, trembling, whispering, "David, be careful. One wrong word." She trailed off, her fear palpable. I nodded, swallowing hard. Every fiber of me screamed caution, but I knew we had to face this. Jeremy leaned closer, voice quiet but intense. "You think ignoring small things was the worst. There's more. Secrets. Lies. Things buried so deep you pretend they don't exist. You never told me. You never explained. And now it's time to face them." His words sent a cold shiver down my spine. I realized then that the danger wasn't just physical anymore, it was emotional, moral, and irreversible if mishandled. I swallowed hard, trying to remain calm. "Jeremy, tell me, what do you mean? Show me. Help me understand. I want to fix it." My voice was steady, but inside my heart pounded. He wasn't bluffing. This was deliberate, calculated. The anger and pain I had ignored for decades were now manifest, tangible, and waiting for us to respond. He held my gaze, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Remember Aunt Linda's will?" he said quietly. "The one after Grandma passed? You think I didn't notice the changes, the hidden clauses, the choices made, without explaining anything? You left me out. You lied by omission." My chest tightened. I remembered the will vaguely, the legal confusion, the family tension, but Jeremy had experienced it in full, completely, silently. Margaret gasped softly, pressing closer to me. "David, he saw everything," she whispered. "Every small betrayal, every omission, he's carrying it." I nodded, swallowing the sudden guilt, realizing how blind I had been to his perspective. "Jeremy," I said carefully, "I didn't understand. I see now. I'm sorry. I never meant to exclude you." He shook his head slowly, eyes sharp. "Sorry isn't enough anymore. You have to act. You have to confront it. You have to show me you're willing to face the consequences of every decision you made or ignored." The bottle remained on the counter, a silent reminder that danger had not passed. The real reckoning was beginning. I realized he wasn't just angry about the will. This was bigger. Years of being unseen, overlooked, dismissed, had accumulated, and now every grievance, every hidden slight, every family secret was surfacing in this kitchen. "Jeremy," I said softly, "I'll face it, all of it. Whatever you need, we'll confront it together." He studied me for a long moment, eyes scanning mine as if weighing my sincerity. Then he nodded once, faintly, almost imperceptibly. Maybe that's a start, but it won't be easy. You'll have to see what you've avoided, what you've denied, and you'll have to acknowledge it fully, without excuses." His words hit me hard, sharper than any threat. Margaret's whisper came again, urgent. "David, step back. Don't rush him. Follow his lead." I obeyed, moving slowly, deliberately, showing patience and respect. The tension hung thickly in the air. Jeremy's next words cut through the silence. "Do you remember Uncle Carl?" he asked, quietly. My stomach sank. Carl had been a volatile presence in our family, someone whose actions had caused rifts, but were often dismissed. Jeremy's voice grew colder. "He lied, manipulated, and yet you all pretended it didn't exist. You let it happen. And I had to watch. Every move, every deception. I saw it all." My pulse jumped. I hadn't realized the depth of his observation, the accumulation of resentment. Each slight, each unspoken truth had become a dagger in his mind, sharpened over years of silence. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to remain calm. "I see now. I see what you endured, what you watched, and I promise we will not ignore it anymore. Whatever we have to do, we'll face it together." Margaret squeezed my arm, her fear mingling with hope. Jeremy's grip on the mug loosened slightly, though the bottle remained an ominous presence. "Maybe you do understand," he said softly. "But understanding isn't enough. Seeing is one thing. Acting on it is another. You need to prove it. Step by step, choice by choice, you have to show me you're willing to confront the past without flinching." I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the responsibility crushing down on me. Jeremy's eyes softened fractionally, just enough for a flicker of the nephew I once knew to appear. "If you fail, if you flinch, if you hesitate, it all comes crashing down. Not just the family, but everything we've survived together." His words reminded me that the stakes weren't just emotional. They were moral, relational, and immediate. I swallowed hard, forcing my mind to focus. "I won't fail. We'll face it, together, carefully, honestly. No excuses, no hiding, no avoidance." Margaret exhaled softly behind me, relief flickering, though tension remained. Jeremy nodded slowly, studying me, testing, evaluating. "Good," he said quietly. "Then the next steps will tell me everything. Actions, not words, no mistakes." The air in the kitchen vibrated with anticipation. Jeremy's anger, his pain, and his need to be seen were no longer abstract. They were immediate, tangible. The bottle and the coffee were no longer the focus. They were symbols, reminders of every unresolved grievance, every betrayal, every slight that had gone unnoticed. Margaret pressed against me again. "David, we've survived the first test, but the real reckoning is ahead." He's ready to push boundaries, to force truth. Watch him. Listen to him. Anticipate him. Every word, every movement matters. I nodded slowly, realizing she was right. The next confrontation wouldn't just test patience. It would test the very foundation of our family and the trust we had to rebuild. Jeremy's eyes met mine again, steady, unwavering. "One step forward," he whispered. "Just one, but every step after depends on you. Don't fail." My stomach twisted at the weight of his expectation. I realized then that survival, reconciliation, and rebuilding trust would take far more than words. It would take careful, deliberate action and acknowledgement of every hidden fracture in our family. The kitchen felt smaller, heavier, each breath thick with tension. Jeremy's eyes never left mine, sharp and unwavering, but now carrying a weight I hadn't fully comprehended until this moment. Margaret pressed against me, whispering softly, "David, every word, every move counts. Don't make him think you're holding back." I nodded, swallowing hard. Every instinct screamed caution, but I knew we had to step forward, face the truth, and survive this reckoning together. Jeremy leaned forward, voice low but cutting. "You think the will was the worst part? That was small. There's more. Deeper. Uglier. Secrets no one speaks of. Choices made behind closed doors, lies that built themselves into the walls of this house, while everyone pretended it didn't matter." His words pressed down like a weight I couldn't shake. I realized then that this wasn't just anger. It was decades of carefully stored resentment, and he was ready to unleash it. Margaret whispered again, trembling, "David, just listen. Don't argue. Don't defend. Let him speak." I nodded, keeping my gaze locked on Jeremy, my voice calm, deliberate. "I'm listening, Jeremy. Tell me everything. Help me see what I missed, what I ignored." He studied me for a moment, his expression unreadable, then slowly began. "Remember last Christmas? You all acted like nothing happened, like Carl's betrayal was a joke, like Grandma's secrets didn't exist. I watched it all, every lie, every manipulation. You think I didn't notice? I noticed. Every hidden note, every whispered conversation, every document you ignored or dismissed." This voice hardened, but behind it was raw pain that made my chest ache. I swallowed hard. I see it now, Jeremy. I understand the pain you carried. The things you saw that we dismissed. I didn't notice before, but I do now. I'm sorry. He shook his head slowly. Sorry? Words are cheap. You have to prove it. I found the actions. A single act to show me you understand the weight of what I endured. One wrong choice, and it all collapses. No excuses. I felt Margaret's hand press into mine, grounding me. David, follow his lead. Step carefully. Show him trust. I nodded, forcing myself to breathe evenly, focusing on control and deliberate action. Jeremy's gaze shifted to the coffee pot, then back to me, testing, waiting. You'll have to confront everything, he continued, voice low but intense. Every betrayal, every hidden document, every manipulation. You avoided it for years. You pretended it didn't exist. Now it matters. One misstep, one hesitation, and the damage is permanent. I realized then that this wasn't just about reconciliation. It was a moral reckoning. The family I thought I knew had secrets and fractures I hadn't begun to understand. Margaret whispered, David, stay calm. Don't react to anger. Observe. Follow. Act with honesty. I nodded, feeling the crushing weight of responsibility. Every word from Jeremy carried decades of unspoken grievances, and every movement we made could tip the fragile balance between trust and catastrophe. Jeremy's eyes narrowed. The letters, the hidden accounts. You think I didn't notice when money moved, when decisions were made without explanation? Every omission, every silence, it built up, and now you have to face it with me. No excuses, no denial. My pulse pounded. I had vaguely remembered some of the accounts, but Jeremy had experienced them fully, silently, like a spectator trapped behind a glass wall while the family pretended everything was fine. I see it, Jeremy, I said carefully. I understand now. I see every omission, every secret, and I promise we will face it, together. Honestly, his expression didn't soften entirely, but there was a flicker, just enough to show he was listening, evaluating, and testing. Maybe, he said quietly, but it's not enough to just see, you have to act. Show me that our family can confront the past, that we can rebuild trust. Step by step, choice by choice. One misstep, and everything falls apart. My stomach twisted. The weight of his expectation was crushing, but I knew he was right. This was the moment where honesty, patience, and deliberate action mattered more than anything else. I took a slow step forward, careful not to startle him. My hands visible. Jeremy, I'm stepping forward. I'll follow your lead. Tell me what I need to do first. His eyes softened fractionally. The first act is simple but crucial. We confront the past without hiding, without excuses. Show me you can face what you ignored, what you pretended didn't exist. Are you ready? I swallowed hard, voice calm, but heavy. I'm ready. Whatever it takes, I'll face it. Margaret pressed closer, murmuring encouragement. The tension in the kitchen was suffocating, but we had taken a step forward. One small act, one deliberate choice, could begin the path to acknowledgement, trust, and fragile reconciliation. Jeremy's hand shifted slightly toward the mug he had poured earlier, then withdrew. Good, he said quietly. The next steps will reveal everything. Your actions, your honesty, your ability to confront truth will tell me if this family can survive its own history. No flinching, no hesitation. Understand, I nodded, the weight of the moment pressing on me. I understand. Margaret exhaled softly, relief flickering though tension remained. Jeremy's gaze remained sharp, but there was now the barest trace of trust in his posture, a recognition that we were willing to meet him halfway. The bottle on the counter was no longer a physical threat. It was a symbol, a reminder of every betrayal, every omission, every hidden truth. Jeremy had carried silently, and now the true reckoning was about to begin. One wrong move, one hesitation, and the fragile trust we were building could shatter completely. Jeremy's voice broke the silence. Soft but firm. One step forward. But remember, every step after depends on your honesty, your courage, your willingness to confront the past. Fail, and you'll see what happens when a family pretends nothing matters. The words landed like stones in my chest, and I realized that survival, reconciliation, and understanding would require more than words. It would require deliberate, brave, and honest action every single moment from now on. The kitchen felt impossibly still, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Jeremy's eyes locked on mine, sharp but now tinged with something I hadn't seen before. Cautious hope. Margaret pressed against me, her hand trembling in mine. "David, the final step," she whispered softly. "This is it. Every word, every choice counts." I nodded, knowing she was right. The culmination of years, decades of neglect, secrets, and unspoken pain was about to unfold. Jeremy gestured toward the counter, where the bottle and the coffee sat silently. "This isn't about the bottle anymore," he said quietly. "It's about what it represents. Every slight, every betrayal, every omission. We face it now together, or it consumes us all." His gaze burned into mine, and I realized that survival wasn't about physical danger. It was about acknowledgement, honesty, and moral courage. I swallowed hard, voice steady. "Jeremy, we face it. No hiding, no excuses, no denial. I see you, I hear you. I understand the weight of every grievance, every secret you carried." His eyes flickered, and for a fraction of a second, I saw the boy I remembered, the nephew who had trusted me once, the one I had overlooked. Then the weight returned, heavier than before. He nodded slowly. "Words are not enough. Actions, David. Show me you understand. Prove it." I glanced at Margaret, whose expression mirrored the tension in the room. Fear, hope, relief, and terror all wrapped into one. I realized that our next choice would determine the course of our family forever. I stepped closer. Deliberately, hands visible, voice calm. "Jeremy, I will act. I will face the past, every omission, every betrayal. I will show you we can survive this. Together." His gaze never left mine, evaluating, measuring every syllable, every breath, every micro-movement. The tension in the room stretched, thick and suffocating, yet fragile. Margaret's whisper came again. Urgent. "David, follow his lead. Let him guide the first act. No mistakes." I nodded silently, focusing all my attention on Jeremy, on the subtle shifts in his posture, on the flicker of hope beneath the anger. He gestured to the mug he had poured earlier. "Take it," he said softly. "Trust me enough to take it. One small act of trust can change everything." My pulse raced, stomach twisting. I moved deliberately, slowly, taking the mug in my hands, careful not to startle him, careful to show complete trust. Jeremy's eyes softened fractionally as I handed it back, and for the first time since entering the kitchen, the air seemed lighter, though still charged, dangerous in its intensity. "Good," he whispered. "Now, the documents, the letters, everything you ignored. Look at them. Acknowledge them. Every omission, every lie, every hidden choice. See it, understand it, and face it." My heart pounded. Margaret exhaled softly, pressing against me. The weight of decades of neglect, resentment, and secrets pressed down on us all. This was the reckoning, the moment where words, actions, and honesty collided. I bent over the counter, carefully picking up the letters and documents Jeremy had laid out. Every word, every number, every hidden clause told a story I hadn't fully understood until this moment. I read carefully, silently acknowledging each grievance, each slight. Jeremy watched me closely, his expression unreadable, yet something in his posture shifted, a cautious recognition of our willingness to confront truth. After what felt like an eternity, I looked up. Jeremy, I see it, every secret, every omission, every betrayal. I understand now. I take responsibility. We face it together, honestly, without excuses. His eyes lingered on mine for a long moment. The tension in the room hung thick, yet something fragile had changed. He exhaled slowly, lowering the bottle completely. Finally, he said quietly, Maybe this is the start. But remember, the past doesn't vanish overnight. Trust doesn't rebuild instantly. Every choice, every action matters from now on. His voice carried the weight of years, the pain of being unseen, and the cautious hope of acknowledgement. Margaret pressed against me, whispering, David, it's done. For now. But remember, this is only the beginning of rebuilding trust. I nodded, understanding that the real work, the moral, emotional, and relational rebuilding, was just beginning. But for the first time in years, Jeremy's anger, though still present, had shifted toward recognition, toward connection. He placed the mug down and finally allowed a faint, almost imperceptible smile. One step, he said quietly. Just one, but it's enough for now. If we keep moving forward carefully, honestly, maybe we survive this family together. My chest tightened, relief, mingling with lingering fear. The reckoning had begun, and though the road ahead was long, fragile, and fraught with tension, we had survived the immediate storm. Margaret exhaled, tears glimmering. David, we did it. We did it. We survived. He's listening. I nodded slowly, still processing the weight of the confrontation, the danger, the emotional storm. Jeremy's eyes, though still wary, held a glimmer of hope. For the first time, the past had been acknowledged. The family, fractured and burdened with secrets, had taken its first steps toward truth, trust, and survival. The bottle on the counter no longer mattered. What mattered was the acknowledgement, the honesty, the courage to face decades of neglect, oversight, and hidden grievances. Jeremy had forced us to see ourselves, and in that painful, tense reckoning, a fragile thread of connection had begun to form. The storm had passed, but the rebuilding had only begun, and as I looked at him, at Margaret, and at the documents before us, I realized that survival wasn't just about avoiding danger. It was about confronting truth, acknowledging pain, and taking the deliberate, honest steps to rebuild a family that had almost lost everything.